Welcome back, Rocket Grunts. Chapter 4 of The House of the Scorpion by Nancy Farmer. Coming at you. Matt gazed up. Hundreds of stars lay in a bright smear across a velvety black sky. It was the Milky Way, which Celia had spurted from the Virgin's breast when she first fed baby Jesus. The grass pressed against Matt's back. It wasn't as soft as he imagined, but it smelled fresh, and the coolness of the air was good too. He felt hot and feverish. The terrifying pain had subsided to a dull ache. Matt was glad to be outside again. The sky felt familiar and safe. The same stars hung over the little house in the poppy fields. Celia never took him outside by day, but sometimes at night she would sit in the doorway of the little house. She would tell him stories and point out a falling star. "That's a prayer being answered by God," she explained. "One of the angels is flying down to carry out God's orders." Matt prayed now for Celia to come and rescue him. She noted she'd be upset about the window, but he could live with that. No matter how loud she yelled, he knew underneath that she still loved him. He watched the sky, but no star fell. "Look at him. He's just lying there like an animal," said Amelia from not far away. Matt jumped. He'd forgotten about the children. "He is an animal," Stephen said after a pause. They were sitting on the first step leading to the house. Maria was busy picking oranges from the trees and rolling them down the stairs. "I don't understand," said Amelia. "I've been stupid. I should have known it was the minute I saw it. No servant would be allowed to keep a child or live away from the others. Benito told me about the situation, only I thought it was living somewhere else. In a zoo, maybe, wherever those things are kept." "What are you talking about?" "Matt's a clone," said Stephen. Amelia gasped. "He can't be. He doesn't. I've seen clones. They're horrible. They drool and mess their pants. They make animal noises." "This one's different," Benito told me. "Technicians are supposed to destroy their minds at birth. It's the law. But El Patron wants his to grow up like a real boy. He's so rich he can break any laws he wants." "That's disgusting. Clones aren't people," cried Amelia. "Of course they aren't." Amelia hugged her knees. "It makes me feel goosebumpy. I actually touched it. It got its blood on me." "Maria, stop rolling oranges at us." "Make me," jeered Maria. "In about 1 second I'm going to roll you down the stairs." The little girl stuck out her tongue. She threw a fruit so hard it shot off the bottom step and landed with a soft plop on the grass. "Want me to peel you one, Matt?" she called. "Don't," said Amelia. The seriousness in her voice made the little girl pause. "Matt's a clone. You mustn't go near it." "What's a clone?" "A bad animal." "How bad?" Maria said with interest. Before Amelia could answer, the fierce man and the doctor appeared at the top of the stairs. "You should have called me at once," the doctor said. "It's my job to make sure it stays healthy." "I didn't find out until I walked past the living room. There was blood all over the place. I'm afraid I lost my head and ordered Rosa to throw it outside." The fierce man seemed less dangerous now, but Matt still tried to wiggle away. The movement sent a wave of agony through his foot. "We'll have to take it somewhere else. I can't operate on the lawn." "There's an empty room in the servants' quarters," said the fierce man. He shouted for Rosa, who pattered down the steps with a furious look on her face. She carted Matt to a different part of the house, a warren of dim hallways that smelled of mold. Stephen, Amelia, and Maria were ordered away to take showers and change their clothes. Matt was I can't talk today. Matt was deposited on a hard, bare mattress. The room was long and narrow. At one end of the door and the other a window covered with an iron grillwork. "I need more light," the doctor said tersely. The fierce man brought a lamp. "Hold it down," the doctor ordered Rosa. "Please, master, it's a filthy clone," the woman objected. "Get moving if you know what's good for you." The fierce man growled. Rosa threw herself across Matt's body and grasped at his ankles. Her weight made it almost impossible to breathe. "Stop! Stop!" the boy wailed. The doctor probed in the deepest cut with a pair of tweezers as Matt struggled and begged and finally broke down entirely when the sliver of glass was extracted. Rosa held onto his ankle so tightly her fingers burned like fire. When at last the wound was cleaned and stitched, Matt was set free. He rolled himself into a ball and looked fearfully at his tormentors to see if they planned anything else. "I've given it a tetanus shot," says the doctor, putting away his instruments. "There may be permanent damage to his right foot." "Can I send it back to the poppy fields?" inquired the fierce man. "Too late. The children have seen it." The men and Rosa went out. Matt wondered what would happen next. If he prayed very hard, Celia would surely come for him now. She would hug him and carry him off to bed. Then she would light the holy candle in front of the Virgin of Guadalupe. except that the Virgin was far away in the little house, and Celia might not even know where he was. Rosa slammed open the door and laid the newspaper all over the floor. The doctor says your house broken, but I'm not taking chances. Do it in the bucket if you've got the brains. She placed a bucket next to the bed and picked up the lamp. Wait, Matt said. Rosa paused. She looked distinctly unfriendly. Can you tell Celia where I am? The maid smiled maliciously. Celia isn't allowed to see you. Doctor's orders. She went out and closed the door. The room was dark except for a faint yellow light flittering through the bars of the window. Matt craned his head up to see where it was coming from. He saw a bulb hanging on the wire from the ceiling. It was as small as the lights Celia used to decorate the Christmas tree, but it shone valiantly and softened when it would otherwise have been of complete darkness. He could see nothing else except the bed and the bucket. The walls were bare, the ceiling high and shadowy. The narrowness of the room made felt as though he were locked in a box. He had never gone to bed alone. Always, even when it might be very late, he could count on Celia's return. When he woke in the night, her snores in the next room made him feel safe. Here there was nothing, not even the wind over the poppy fields, or the murmur of doves in their nests on the roof. The silence was terrifying. Matt cried steadily. His grief went on and on. It lessened. He remembered Celia and started crying again. He looked up with tear-blurred eyes at the little yellow light and seemed to waver like a flame. It came to him that it was like the holy candle in front of the Virgin. After all, the Virgin could go wherever she liked. She couldn't be locked up like a person. She could fly through the air and even knock down walls like the superheroes Matt saw on TV. Only she wouldn't do that, of course, because she was Jesus' mother. She could be standing outside right now watching his window. Something let go inside of Matt. He sighed deeply, and soon he was fast asleep. He woke to the sound of someone opening the door. Matt tried to sit up, but the pain made him lie down again. A flashlight shone in his eyes. Good, I was afraid this was the wrong room. A small shape ran over the bed and unslung a backpack and began taking out food. Maria, said Matt. Rosa said they didn't give you dinner. She's so mean. I have a dog at home. If he doesn't get fed, he howls. Do you like mango juice? It's my favorite. Matt suddenly realized he was very thirsty. He drank the whole bottle without stopping. Maria had brought hunks of cheese and pepperoni. I'm going to put them in your mouth, one at a time, but you have to promise not to bite me. Matt indignantly said he never bit people. Well, you never know. Amelia says clones are as vicious as werewolves. Did you see that story on TV about the boy who got hair all over him when the moon was full? Yes, Matt was delighted that he and Maria had something in common. He had locked himself in the bathroom after the movie until Celia came home. You don't grow hair or anything, do you? Never, Matt swore. Good, Maria said. She popped bits of food into Matt's mouth until he couldn't eat anymore. They talked about movies and the stories Celia had told Matt of the dangers that lurked after dark. Matt found that if he lay perfectly still, his wounds didn't hurt too much. Maria bounced around and occasionally hurt him, but he was too afraid to scold her. She might get angry and leave. Celia hangs charms over the doors to keep out monsters, Matt told Maria. Does that work? Of course. They also keep out dead people who aren't ready to stay in their graves. There aren't any charms here, Maria said nervously. That thought occurred to Matt too, but he didn't want her to go away. We don't need charms in the big house. There are too many people, and monsters hate crowds. Maria's interest drove Matt to greater and greater heights. He talked fervishly, unable to stop, and he ground his teeth from sheer nervousness. He had never had so much attention in his life. Celia tried to listen to him, but she was usually too tired. Maria hung on to his words as though her life depended on them. Do you know about the chupacabras? Matt said. What's a chupacabra? Maria asked. Her voice sounded a little high and breathless. You know, the goat sucker. It sounds nasty. Maria moved closer to him. It is. It's got spikes down its back and claws and orange teeth, and it sucks blood. You're kidding. Celia says it has the face of a man. Only the eyes are black inside, like empty holes, said Matt. Ugh. It likes ghost pets, but it'll eat horses or cows, or a child if it's really hungry. Maria was pressed right up against him now. She put her arms around him, and he gritted his teeth to keep from wincing with pain. He noticed that her hands were icy. Last month, Celia said it got a whole pen of chickens, Matt said. I heard about that. Stephen said illegals stole them. That's what they told everyone, to keep them from running away out of sheer terror, said Matt, echoing the words Celia had used. But they really found the chickens in the desert without a drop of blood left inside. They were blowing around like dry cantaloupe skins. Matt was afraid of Stephen and Amelia, but Maria was different. She was his size, and she didn't make him feel bad. What was it Rosa had called him? A filthy clone? Matt had no idea what that was, but he recognized an insult when he heard it. Rosa hated him, and so did the fierce man and the doctor. Even the two older children had changed once they knew what he was. Matt wanted to ask Maria about clones, but he was afraid she might hate him too if he reminded her. Meanwhile, he had discovered a wonderful power in repeating the story as Celia had told him. They had held him spellbound, and now they were impressing Maria so much that she was practically glued to him. The chupacabras aren't the only thing out there, said Matt. Now, warning, Spanish name coming up. I'm going to butcher this, but La Llorona walks the night too. Maria murmured something. Her face was pressed against his shirt, so it was hard to tell what she was saying. La Llorona drowned her children because she was angry at her boyfriend, and then she was sorry and drowned herself, Matt said. She went to heaven, and St. Peter shouted, "You bad woman, you can't come here without your kids." She ran down to hell, but the devil slammed the door in her face. Now she has to walk around all night, never sitting down, never sleeping. She cries, "Ooh, ooh, where are my babies?" You could hear her when the wind blows. She comes to the window. "Ooh, ooh, where are my babies?" She scratches the glass with her long fingernails. "Stop it!" shrieked Maria. "I told you to stop it. Don't you ever listen?" Matt halted. What could possibly be wrong with this story? It was telling exactly what Celia did. "There's no such thing as La Llorona. You made her up." "No, I didn't." "Well, if she's real, I don't want to know." Matt reached out and touched Maria's face. "You're crying." "I'm not, you idiot. I just hate nasty stories." Matt was horrified. He'd never meant to scare Maria that much. "I'm sorry." "You should be, Maria muttered, sniffling. "Nothing can get through the window bars," Matt said, "and there's a ton of people in this house. There's nobody in the halls. If I go outside, the monsters will get me." "Maybe not." "Oh, great. Maybe not. When Amelia finds out I'm not in bed, I'm going to be in really big trouble. She'll tell Dada, and she'll make me do times tables for hours, and it's all your fault." Matt didn't know what to say. "I'll have to stay here till morning," Maria concluded. But I'll still get into really big trouble. At least the chupacabras won't eat me. Move over." Matt tried to make room. The bed was very narrow, and it hurt to move even a few inches. His hands and feet throbbed as he clung to the far edge. "You really are a hog," complained Maria. "Got any covers?" "No," said Matt. "Wait a minute." Maria jumped off the bed and gathered up the newspapers Rosa had spread on the floor. "We don't need covers," Matt objected as she began arranging them on the bed. "They make me feel safer." Maria crawled under the papers. "This isn't too bad. I sleep with my dog all the time. Are you sure you don't bite?" "Of course not," said Matt. "That's all right," she said, snuggling closer to him. Matt's mind churned over the punishment Maria would endure because she had brought him food. He didn't know what times tables were, but they were probably something awful. "They are." So much had happened in such a short time, and Matt couldn't understand half of it. Why had he been thrown out on the lawn when everyone had been so eager to help him at first? Why had the fierce man called him a little beast, and why had Amelia told Maria he was a bad animal? It had something to do with being a clone, and also perhaps with the writing on his foot. Matt once asked Celia about the words on his foot, and she said it was something they put on babies to keep them from getting lost. He assumed everyone was tattooed. Even from Stephen's reaction, it seemed everyone wasn't. Maria wriggled and sighed and flung her arms out in her sleep. The newspapers quickly fell to the floor. Matt had to scoot to the extreme edge of the bed to keep from being kicked. At one point, she seemed to have a nightmare. She called, "Mama, Mama." Matt tried to wake her, but she punched him. In the first blue light of dawn, Matt forced himself to get up. He gasped at the pain in his feet. It was worse than last night. He dropped to his hands and knees and moved as noisily as possible, pulling the bucket along with him. When he got to the end of the bed where he thought Maria couldn't see him, he tried to pee silently. Maria turned over. The noise made Matt jump. The bucket tipped over. He had to fetch newspapers to sop up the mess that he had to rest back against the wall with his hands and feet hurt so much. "Bad girl!" shouted Rosa, flinging open the door. Behind her was a covey of maids, all craning their necks to see what was inside. "We turned the whole house upside down looking for you," Rosa yelled. "All the time you were hiding out with this filthy clone. Boy, are you in trouble. You're going to be sent home at once." Maria sat up, blinking at the sudden light from the doorway. Rosa whisked her whisked her off the bed and wrinkled her nose at Matt, cowering against the wall. So you aren't housebroken, you little brute, she snarled, kicking aside the sodden newspapers. I honestly don't know how Celia stood it all those years. End of chapter 4.